You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way.
Welcome, one and all, to yet another glorious episode of the Tomes of Gygax, where we are deep in our treasure pile of nuggets of wisdom given to us by the great master Gary Gygax himself. And also, there's this hut with chicken legs and a racially insensitive set of cups and talismans.
I can't find the door to this room. I don't know how to get out of here.
It's probably one of the minor powers of the Crystal of the Ebb and Flame.
How long have I been here?
Oh, don't worry. There's if we need to rewind time, I think we just need to roll a 00 on Heward's mystical organ. Your wife. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I don't need to continue that.
This bit is falling apart, and why does this magic item have to be decided where the powers go?
Yeah, so we're at the interesting section of the magic item tables of the Dungeon Master's Guide, where we come to the big ones, the legendary ones, the ones with names, mostly names stolen by rearranging the letters in Gary Gygax's children's. But this is the stuff that was important to his campaign, or at least he seems to have thought they were, because he put them all in here. Presumably, half of these were originally meant to be in the bottom of Castle Greyhawk, and the other half meant to be in the Temple of Elemental Evil, but then he just sort of stuck them in to the Dungeon Master's Guide instead.
These were all the... If cherries are to be picked, these are the cherries that were picked from the bottom of each of the dungeons. His players would have had to fight their way through. These were the goals, the crown jewels.
The stuff they all walked past as they accidentally found. Every single one of them accidentally found the portal that sent you to China instead. Apparently, they just kept finding the bottom level of the dungeon and just kept falling in the hole that leads to China. That was the style at the time.
Which presumably has its own dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
That probably lead back. It's as mass transit goes. It's inefficient, but it works. Right. So, we are not about to walk past this gallery of arcane and legendary relics and artifacts, both notorious and some of which have probably been lost to the mists of time. Where do you want to start?
Well, I just want to introduce the concept, because we've sort of been dancing around it as we introduced it. But the point here is that we have each of these legendary artifacts, like the Codex of Infinite Planes, or the Crown of Might, or the Machine of Lumnamad. And each of them will have, its normal, a sort of set of core powers, defining their size, their basic things. But each of them will also have a bunch of slots underneath it. Like, see, the Axe of Dwarves Lords, this is the first one. It has...
It's a nice way of putting blank lines, blank spaces in this book I bought.
Yeah. It has 2 Class 1 powers, a Class 2 power, Class 3 power, Class 4, 5, and 6 power. So it's sort of basic stuff. And the idea is that for your campaign, now in your campaign, you definitely have the Axe of Dwarves Lords, or you can choose to put it in. But the powers the Axe of Dwarves Lords in your campaign are supposed to be different than the powers they have in every other campaign.
So you roll your own.
Yeah, you roll your own. And my immediate question that comes to mind is, why? What's the game design reason for this? Are we suggesting a situation where Gary Gygax was so worried about people metagaming the powers of unique artifacts that he felt that they had to be different in every alternate dimension?
So the characteristics of the artifacts remain the same. The stuff that's prescribed are stuff like Eye of Vecna. You stick it on your eye, it'll graft itself to your head. Good luck getting rid of that. And it'll change your alignment, things like that. But then obviously, yeah, the actual powers, major and minor, are up to your GM. Or perhaps there's a certain element of negotiation.
Yeah, like each power slot has a table. It's not really a table; it's more like a list. I'm sure people have figured out ways to randomly roll on these, but I don't think it's because, like, say the level 1 powers goes from A to XX, and the table 3 minor malevolent effects goes up to X. And so forth. Right. So,
okay,
'tis a little bit random.
So yeah, what's the deal here? What's the sitch? I don't know.
Like, is it a bit like I do have to wonder? Because you don't have this for the other magic items. So, is it just a attempt to force uniqueness into, or is it an attempt to encourage GMs to go, well, I could use the Axe of Dwarves Lords, or I could just use these cool tables of powers to make something completely different.
Or you've got well, look, it's perhaps a campaign defining artifact. So it would be nice if the powers it had were tailored to your campaign. Perhaps it is an element that this is a place where Gary's like, okay, look, people may not want it to cast Fireball. They may want it for story or flavor reasons to do something else instead. And in that, it casts Ray of or Chain Light or something. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's GM prep is part and parcel. This is a book with a ton of tables in it that you can roll this stuff up from. It is, however, yeah, and they're still well written. I mean, the okay, maybe not the Mad Machine of the Mad Lum or Lum's Mad.
We'll get to that. That's one of the really standard ones.
Baba Yaga's hut and the invulnerable coat of Arnd.
I'm pretty sure it's a Dave Arneson reference.
Of course. If you put your friends into your books, put your friends into your adventures. It's good fun. They're there. They're very recognizable. They have lots of well-defined attributes. So yeah, there's going to be some stuff that is at the GM's discretion. I don't hate it. At first glance, it's like, oh, Gary appears not to have written half of these. But like, there's each one of these, if you actually read the description, has plenty going on to play around with, just in terms of their attributes, irregardless of what they actually do. There's so many caveats to how you should use these things. You can get creative with it.
Yeah, there's there's a whole bunch of extra rules here. Particularly interesting of the specified, yet more specific rules for hirelings. Whereas this idea is that if you're of the type to instead of asking, instead of picking up the Axe of Dwarvish Lords, you were to force your hireling Jim Bob. Oh, you pick up the Axe of Dwarvish Lords. Then there's an itemized list based on alignment of what they definitely will do once they have the artifact. It's like it's a sort of enforced Gollemism, where no hireling can withstand the clarion call of getting the artifacts of ultimate power, and they will either betray you if they're evil, try to become in charge if they're neutral, or if they're good, will say, hey, you just forced me to use this artifact. Clearly you're evil, and I will become the hero of the story now.
Good luck.
I mean, okay, to be fair, if they do pick up the Codex Infinite Planes, it will probably blast them into oblivion. But if they survive it, then good luck to them. They may, in fact, just go out with power.
They're starting by facing down a party of adventurers who, might be a little battered. So
I mean, it depends on the artifact. There's some really nasty abilities in there.
Can we talk about the Machine of Lum the Mad? This is the one that, for me, kind of fails. There's a lot of prescription in some of these that you've got to work out all the finger hand combinations and positions for the Hand of Vecna, and I'm like,
like you
okay.
have to do gang signs with the Hand of Vecna to get it to work.
Yeah, which you then require the host at the table to make. That's cute. But the Machine of Lum the Mad, it's a great machine. That's good fun. But you get kind of it has what, like a dozen lines of blank spaces.
Yeah, you're supposed to matrix the 60 buttons, 40 levers, and 20 switches or something.
Along those lines, yeah.
60 levers, 40 dials, 20 switches, and you're supposed to. You must. Again, it's Gygax can't say you should, or it might be cool if you did. It is you must meet. Like, okay, 3D matrixing aside, that's a 24,000 entries for, admittedly, like close to 100 powers. So it's not like it's.
At this point, I think people are going to be winging it.
Yeah. I think at a certain point I mean, in the modern day, people have many of a D10,000 table of random magical effects, and that might be more appropriate. In this case,
yeah, it stands out even in this collection.
I mean, I do like the sense of experimentalism, but yeah.
Look, you're probably only dealing with one of these at a time. Like we're looking at the whole page here, which is just reams of descriptions of things that you must do, and it will do this, and without the power of 1,000 gods, you won't be able to do this. And then some blank lines to fill in the actual powers. But for the GM in question, you're only really dealing with one or two of these in any given year of play.
One hopes.
Yeah.
And some of them do. Powerful. Some of them do have interesting extra effects, like Heward's mystical organ requires you to find like the actual songs required to unlock its power.
Cool. That's a quest.
Yeah, it's extra quests, and unfortunately, Gygax makes suggestions based on 1979 music that the powers of the mystical organ of Heward might be found by finding the mystical songs "Fly Me to the Moon," "Monster Mash," and "Devil in the Deep Blue Sea."
Gary, you're so close to this being just flat out good, but that's okay. Presumably, you must seek out the bards.
One would imagine.
Maybe even become one yourself to find the most sought after songs.
Are there any particular ones?
Hang around in the pub where someone will eventually sing them.
Are there any of these that particularly stood out to you as being?
There's the ones that everybody recognizes, like Baba Yaga's hut, the Hand and Eye of Vecna. No Head of Vecna here. I was almost sure I'd read the Head of Vecna today, but no. Don't cut off your own head and stick Vecna's on. It's.
I've always been partial. I've always been partial to the counterpart to the Machine of Lum the Mad, with the Mighty Servant of Luco, which is a giant robot, but also has a bunch of crazy powers. The Orbs of Dragonkind, slightly different from the versions in Dragonlance by minor degrees. The Ring of Gygax, because I have a feeling that the Ring of Gygax is based entirely on something that Gary's first or second fighter in between his Mordenkainen days, I believe, got a really powerful ring, and I think that is where the Ring of Gygax comes from.
Rod of 7 parts, because it's got its own kind of mythology. It was
amazingly. This is actually a pretty simple version of it. Just has different it has normal powers and then extra powers as you plug the pieces together, and then bonus powers if you get to all 7. I believe there was actually an even more complicated version in the second edition Rod of 7 parts book.
Yeah, this is the kind of the very kind of basic version. Although even in this, you have kind of a creation myth, and it places a sort of a geas on the owner if they should quest to find parts to fit them together. Once you get 3 parts together, you can't drop it or let go of it until you've found all the parts, which might make taking a bath slightly awkward. Yeah, it's like it feels like a whole story in and of itself. You could construct a campaign around the quest for the parts and all this, and the people whose hands they fall into, the immediate on the way, some allies, some enemies. Yeah, it's got plenty going for it. Like what the parts actually do is sort of secondary. It's the real relic for the friends who made it along the way.
Yeah. And of course, a lot of these have the infamous Table 5 powers, which are the real campaign ruining runs. Like,
Will we? Yeah, we'll skip the minor stuff. Let's go to table 5.
yeah. So of course we
Prime
have
powers.
entry F, which is Finger of Death, no saving throw once per day. So once per day, destroy target boss.
What else?
There's also C, which is turn bones to jelly once time per day. I presume there's no saving throw for that either.
Resurrection 7 times a week. Ooh. Why didn't they just say once a day? Wait, is this the 10-day? No, that's the Forgotten Realms. Okay. 7 times a week. Fine.
Yeah.
Summonings.
I mean, the stuff like the Cacodemon power for D lets you summon one of the Devil Lords or Archdevil or Demon Lords, or so just like one of the godlike beings from the blackest pits of the hells can just be summoned. It doesn't say you control them. It just says, we'll have to check what the Cacodemon spell does, I suppose.
Into your plane of reality. We'll hang out. It'll be, we'll have some beers.
Some of them are very vague. Like Q is premonition of death or serious harm possessor, which no further explanation given.
Okay.
Is it just once time you see, oh, you're about to die, maybe, or is it like you have spider sense now, and anytime you're about to die,
that's a power. Okay, so it's a premonition. Yeah, I guess. Yes, that's Spidey senses. That's pretty awesome. Doesn't have a limit on it either. It's always on. Do you have to use it to instigate a premonition? That's not really how premonitions generally work, but okay.
It's deliberately vague.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, you can summon meteors.
Side effects.
Oh yes, there's also side effects because
these are much more detailed.
I wonder why.
G, treasure within a 5-foot radius of mineral nature, that metal gems, of non-magical type is reduced by 20 to 80% as the item consumes it to sustain its power. Awesome. It'll eat your treasure. It'll eat anybody's treasure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so you've got a voracious, loot-hungry magic item. That's great. What's the danger these things talk? Just before we go any further. What's the dangers these things sort of have personalities?
That's a future table. I think the talking magic items is a future table. It is actually, yeah, it's on page 166. We'll get to that. It's very specific.
Side effect A: user has a poison touch which requires that humans and man-sized humanoids, but not undead, save versus poison whenever touched. You are going to die alone. Surrounded by bodies, but in a very real sense alone. Right.
Number P, whenever you use the prime power of this artifact, the possessor must save versus magic or lose 1 level of experience.
Wow. Yeah, some of these are cool. User becomes ethereal whenever some of these are just other powers.
Some.
Whenever any major or primary power of the item is activated, 5% cumulative chance that he or she will thereafter become ethereal whenever a stress situation exists. He just palm sweaty disappear into puff of smoke. Amazing. I love that.
I mean, there's absolutely powerful artifacts that automatically kill someone once per day, or get free wishes, or turn invisible to all sensors. They should have interesting side effects. Is the question, and these are relatively interesting, but I think
some of these are just hilarious.
Like if you combo these selections together, right, you can make a really interesting artifact with a whole bunch of upsides and downsides. Just the question is, will it be enough? And are you going to do the work to prove? Like, if you do roll randomly, you might get some really weird results.
Oh yeah, for real.
But I suppose this is why one time the table is a list, but alphabetical, not numbers, to discourage random rolling on this.
And whenever any power of the item is used, temperature within a 6 foot, a radius 6 squares or feet is raised 20 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 to 8 turns. Like, you start blasting powers, this thing just cook people. I love it. Okay, that's side effects. What else have we got?
The means of destruction, which this is again a trope that has lasted the ages of the convoluted methods by which these things could be destroyed if you want to. It doesn't really go into.
You just throw it into the volcano in which it was forged. I mean, that's perfectly simple. How you get it convoluted?
I mean, that is number one on the list.
Yep, melt it down in fiery furnace, pit, mountain, forge, crucible, or kiln in which it was created. Can't imagine where that came from.
Can't imagine at all. Next we have drop it or bury it between the well of time, the abyss, the earth wound, Adonis.
These are all capitalized.
Yes. The spring of eternity, which is different from the well of time. Shut up. Marian's Dredge, not
naughty.
The living stone, the mountain of thunder, 100 adult red dragon skulls, or the tree of the universe.
I kind of want to start a fantasy storage company called 100 Red Dragon Skulls now.
Are there even 100 red dragons in the universe?
Well, it's a multiverse, you see, so get busy dimension hopping.
I guess.
We'll store it for you at 100 Red Dragon Skulls. Just, slip it under there. Perfectly safe.
You'll also get to be devoured by Cerberus. I wonder if he gets stats. I need to check the monster manual. The learning.
What's his rate? I mean, does he charge per item, or
presumably he charge triple?
Like, if he's like, I've got to eat Baba Yaga's hut, it's kind of gamey.
You can choose it to be crushed by Talos, the triple iron golem. I think Spider-Man fought him once. The gates of hell, the cornerstone of the world, Arthur's dolmen. Presumably you have to go to medieval England to find that, or Avalon. The juggernaut of the endless labyrinth, the heel of God, the clashing rocks, which I believe is just like Istanbul.
That's it's from Greek myth, right?
Yeah. Or the foot of a humble ant.
Huh.
We have to have at least one ironic.
We're going on a shrinking adventure.
Speaking of which, one of the next ones is to expose it to the penetrating light and flame of the ray of eternal shrinking.
Okay.
I don't think that destroys it. I think it just makes it shrink forever.
It's just impossible to find, It's Quantum Mania.
Yeah.
The next one then is the sun. You just show it to the sun. Yes, that'll do it. Or truth.
The light and flame of truth. Which is that which...
oh God.
Is this a Bible quote? I think this might
show it to some metaphors. They'll eat it all up. No, the one that caused me to pause was cause it to be steeped in either the encephalic fluids of the brain. I'm getting that wrong. The brain fluids of Bahamut, Platinum Dragon, or in the black and foul blood from the heart of Tiamat, the Chromatic Dragon, which is going to require either some deft negotiation, or is it really worth getting rid of if you've got to go and fight Tiamat? Actually, hold on. This is why these things end up at the bottom of dungeons. Because it is way easier to organize the building and stocking of an entire dungeon than it is to do any of this.
Yeah, I guess so.
Out of sight, out of mind. Down a dungeon it goes.
It is curious though, because like other than their horrible side effects of using the powers, I don't think a lot of these actually, have good reasons why they need to be destroyed, and unless you're trying to make a point. It's just like no throne of God for me. I
don't know. It's turned me into a gas and it's cooked all my friends. I'm pretty hacked off with it. I want to destroy it now. Or to put it beyond the reach of some even more nefarious evil than, say, your party members.
Maybe.
That's a quest. This is all quest fodder, essentially. I mean, it's the MacGuffins. It doesn't matter what they do. We know it doesn't matter what they do because that bit isn't written down. What they are is the thing here. Gary knows. He understands the mythic significance of things like the Blarney Stone and Excalibur. Maybe one of those more than the other. What they do is barely relevant. It's that they hold power over people. They are a legend. Right. What's next?
Well, the next is we go straight.
Because what? This is just a dive. This is a cold bath. We go straight into some stuff about armor.
Yeah, like this is not at the end of the section. This is the entire section. Artifacts is just another table in the presumably alphabetical, because like these are relics, so they go in R, and then after R you have S, so you have the shields and the armor and the swords.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. And we could go piece by piece, but I think we've covered most of the stuff on armor and shields when we looked at the overall tables. Again, I am eternally amused by the sword +1 flame tongue, +2 versus generating creatures, +3 versus cold creatures, inflammable creatures, avian creatures, and +4 versus undead. I still find that funny, but I wouldn't say it's worth dwelling too much on.
It's like, because everything else is like Giant Slayer +2, Dragon Slayer +2, and then there's that guy who's like, someone with a triple-barreled name. Oh yeah, Flame Tongue, regen, cold use, flammable. Oh my god, inbred? Is this sword inbred?
Sorry. There was one thing I missed in the armor section, which is actually interesting. So you ever want to know where Gygax got all those crazy ideas about stuff that doesn't exist, like banded mail or studded leather?
Yeah.
We have a patient 0 for this.
Yeah,
if you're unfamiliar
with, that's just slid in here after shield -1 missile attractor. Yeah, it's okay. Go for it. This is the smoking gun for quite a lot of
If you're unfamiliar with medieval armor types, you might find Charles Fulks, and it's not okay. It might be Charles Hoax, and they just accidentally turned the capital H into 2 lowercase f's. But I think it's Charles Fulks. Charles Fulks. Armor and Weapons, Oxford 1909. So it was already 70 years out of date by the time that Gary pulled it off his shelf and used as reference material. He's got a
Wikipedia entry. FFOULKES. Charles Fulks. Fulks? That's a tough one. That's got to be some ancient Saxon stuff there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The armor.
Oh my goodness! You can temper William Morris. All right. Huh. Part of the arts and crafts movement for anyone playing along at home. This guy moved in some interesting circles. So Gygax liked his book.
Yeah, but there's basically a breakdown here of where he got all of his things out. He says that leather armor is Queer Bully. I think Queer Bully was a show on Irish TG Car television.
It's I think it literally means boiled leather.
Yeah, I know. I was jesting.
Oh, I see.
But yes, there's a reason for studded leather, splint mail, chainmail, everything. Apparently there's a distinction between plate mail and plate armor. So apparently, plate armor is a late develop and is not considered. So you're not. So all those suits of plate mail that we're getting are not like the solid steel knight armor that we're used to in our fantasy vernacular. But actually, we're supposed to be using something more primitive called plate mail, which is, I guess, just chainmail with extra hard bits on top.
Right.
So, guess according to Gygax, we've been getting plate armor wrong this entire time.
Oh, I think we can blame the artist for that.
Okay, fair.
This Charles John Fowlkes, 1868 to 1947. He was curator of the armories. He, as I said, he knocked around William Morris, played an important role in the arts and crafts movement, and he was subsequently first curator and secretary of the newly formed Imperial War Museum in London. This guy knew his stuff. Probably wasn't right about everything, but Gygax, to his credit, had a pretty good source for this stuff. How it gets kind of Ren Fair reinterpreted is, it is the passage of time and what you can get the local tailor to knock up, or in fact later on what you kind of make out of EVA foam for yourself because you saw it in anime. Like this stuff all gets filtered through so many different distorting lenses. It would give the Hubble telescope a hard time.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's an interesting note all the same. I'm sure that probably appears in the appendix or the bibliography. This book has a bibliography, right?
Kind of.
Okay. So, but yeah, let's skip past the arrayed hedge of swords, all of your own.
I think the next element that we might want to deal with before we finished up is the thing you've been dreading this entire time.
Oh, just
talking swords!
Unusual swords, which is to say swords with an intelligence score and a load of gabbiness. Oh boy. Oh,
it's even worse than you thought, Savage. According to the table I see here, 25% of all magic swords are at least semi-intelligent.
Far too many. A scourge into the volcano or under the foot of an ant with them.
Yeah, so there's like, it starts at like 0 to 75% is no intelligence, but there's a whole bunch of about the next 15% or so gives a certain level of empathy, so you sort of feel when your sword is angry at you for not respecting its alignment or not killing enough elves or whatever. And it's at the 90%. So you have a 10% chance of getting one has actual speech and a variety of powers. And of course, at 0-0, at a 1% chance, you could also get extraordinary powers.
Plus telepathy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's got an alignment, which may not be the same as yours.
Randomly determined alignment. There's no normal neutral here. It says absolute neutral is the only option here. There's no swords that don't really care about things. There are only swords that have big alignments or swords that think we must be neutral in everything we do.
And then, okay, so the primary abilities that it can gain are sort of useful. Interesting, and I believe these show up again in 5th Ed, or they've at least filtered down through it, where there's a table for, magic item might have an unusual property. And here there's a lot of detecting sloping passages, or traps of large size, or secret doors. which is, these are these are unusual. These swords appear to have a second life as surveying instruments, but handy to know if there's an elevator nearby.
Yeah, again, it's very useful if you're in a very Gygaxian trap where he is going to trick you into going 3 miles down a very gently sloping passageway, and you end up on level 5 of the dungeon and get mauled by packs of wild balrogs or whatever.
Your sword will be able to go, by the way, we're descending at 1 inch per yard. It's like, okay, that's great. Thanks for that, Mr. Spirit Level. Would I call my sword Mr. Spirit Level? If it insists on talking to me, I probably would.
There's just a couple of annoyances here. Like the whole 1% chance nested tables issue comes again, where you have like a 1% chance per primary ability, or if you got a 1% chance on your initial roll for intelligence or unusualness, that you get to roll the extraordinary power table. And then if you go into the extraordinary power table, there's a 1% chance. Well, actually, there's a 3% chance that you actually get the jackpot of you can choose your power, which is a little weird. It implies that this particular sword, 1 in 10,000, has all these powers, but only picks one, then you pick it up or something.
Some people just find themselves later in life. They meet the right person.
There's
a bond, and all of a sudden they discover that they can teleport once a day.
Yeah. But then there's also like that's the only way to get a sword that has a special purpose that I can see here. And that's another subsection with a couple of tables for it of like what their special purpose is. So
this is where you got to like kill clerics or something.
Yeah, kill clerics.
Doesn't mean they're any good at it, right?
Well, they get an extra power to do it. So it is the best way to get the ultimate power on your sword. But yeah, it's like 1% chance of 1%. It's like a 4% chance of a 3% chance or so of actually getting a special purpose with a bonus power. And
isn't it kind of interesting that it names classes as targets rather than races?
Yeah, which
I
mean, yeah.
Today D&D gets accused of being sort of racist this and racist that, or racially insensitive. Back then it was class struggle, class warfare. I've got a sword that demands I kill all fighters. Oh, this is gonna end well.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this it's a bit of a dry kind of section, but we finally got to talking swords and nested awesomeness.
Yeah, and of course that the swing back is of course the infamous ego system, where you're supposed to total up how many powers, pluses, and other elements that a sword has to create its ego power, and the ego power allows a sword to take over in certain situations. So
yeah. So you might be wondering, and hey, listeners, you might be wondering too, why does Savage hate talking weapons so much? Well, basically, what you've got here now is an NPC that's been attached to the party that will talk all day, but won't carry anything. So it's like it's the Forky of D&D. He's like, carry me. I can't go anywhere. Take me out of this dungeon. I've got so many thieves I want to kill. Also, I'm different alignment from you, so we're not going to actually get along, but I'm still going to talk. And no, I don't stand watch. And no, I can't cook. And no, I won't be carrying any of the treasure. But I'm going to take up time and attention all the same.
And if you apparently the ego power is determined by your hit points this time. So if you take too much damage, and if you accidentally get knocked down to low hit points, so that the ego of the sword overtakes you, This is the moment where the sword will take command of you and decide that this is the time to kill the party cleric.
Right. Yeah. Huh. So here it is. All magic swords with personalities will desire to play an important role in the success of activities, particularly combat. Like, they're just attention seekers. They're egomaniacs. They're just butting in all the time. They never shut up. Excalibur. Excalibur never said a damn thing. Brilliant sword.
Mm-hmm.
But these
These guys
lads.
come with lists of demands. Lists of them.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? If you want to go questing, go right ahead, my friend. Jump out of your scabbard and off you go.
I mean, if it's the sword of dancing, it might just do that.
Fair, yes. That would show us. So that's a whole section of swords, some of which we'll talk. And sort of as a kind of a follow-up, as an aside even, you have miscellaneous weapons, which is basically, here's one example of everything else.
Yeah, which I find it extremely interesting that like they've fully committed to the idea that swords are just more magical than other weapon types. And
like order of magnitude, more examples of swords than anything else.
There's no talking hammers. You don't have to worry about Mjolnir deciding to give you lip about how many giants you're not killing. But yeah, the miscellaneous items, I mean, there may be one or two that have something interesting. There, once again, we see more examples of class warfare here in the arrows of slaying. Now, everyone has heard about, arrows of dragon slaying or arrows of demon slaying, but you ever said arrows of paladin slaying?
Kind of handy to have, if you ask me.
Maybe, but like, it's like, sure, right between your arrows of golem slaying, you have arrows for killing magic users, and then separate arrows for killing illusionists.
I did see that, yeah. And
you still pushing this whole thing that illusionists matter.
Yeah.
And why would you need this when you could just accidentally roll up arrows of mammal slaying? I'm pretty sure gnomes and elves count as mammals.
Did I see somewhere that gnomes and halflings are going to be playable races in the next not edition of D&D? Like, why both? I think they've named 9 playable races.
We've been asking why both for gnomes and halflings for 50 years.
But they got rid of them, didn't they? In was it 4th that they got rid of one set of them?
They got rid of gnomes? Was it gnomes they got rid of in 4th ed? But they put them back in Player's Handbook 2.
Fair enough. There's a distinction between gnomes and halflings, apparently.
Yeah.
You know what the distinction is? They're not as bad as magic swords, but they do talk a lot, and they can't carry as much as regular people. Humans. Or good half work is always good to have along. Not great conversationalists, carry loads. Right. Okay. Developing a weight-based or an encumbrance-based theory of racial.
How about height-based? Because so we were talking about how hammers never give you lip, but they do have a type. There are hammers that like short people and hammers that like tall people.
True.
So there's the dwarven hammer will only work for dwarves. But then there's the hammer of thunderbolts that requires you to be at least 6 feet tall and strength 18 to wield it.
Got a bit of giant, didn't you?
Basically, but it's just like later editions would sort of kind of start trying to combine these two things together, so that all dwarves had like hammers as a thing or axes, and the hammer of thunderbolts was kind of starting to become this dwarven weapon. But here, no, it's very clear that there's a separation of hammer classes, I guess.
Yeah, there's the big and small. Well, Giant's getting a book next year, I think. They're getting a kind of a focus book from Fizzban or something. It's one of the
Yeah.
books, which is kind of cool. Giants in D&D, especially in
Thought one of the
Forgotten Realms, have
other
a
previous.
lot going on.
Yeah, they've added a lot more to Giants this edition thanks to Storm King's Thunder. But I'm pretty sure like Volo's guide already had a section on dragons, so I'm curious to see why something that was like only was like one like oversized chapter in Volo's suddenly now worth an entire book, but then that's the 5th ed release cycle as it is now anyway.
It's crazy town.
One minor thing I wanted to
we'll
bring
wrap
up
up after this.
So you're wondering where all the katanas are, right?
Not really. In the drawer with all the other sort of sometimes fruits.
Well, presumably you've found your trench coat +3. The secret is that the katanas were hiding in the scimitar section of the Magic Item table. Scimitar +2 is opposite treated as same as a magic sword, especially if your campaign is Asian in flavor, and the activity area borders near such a nation. So, if you're wondering where you to get your curved swords, it's just got to move your campaign a little bit, presumably a little bit east, and all of a sudden, your scimitars will no longer simply be +2, but have a chance of getting some real powers and be intelligent and talk back to you, presumably in a horrible accent that was ill-advised.
Yeah. Don't say Gaijin. Don't say Gaijin. Gary Gaijin. Right, on that note, so that leaves us, if you're still here, listeners, we've made it all the way to the heady depths of page 169.
And we are technically through the main text of the book. We're not through the actual book yet, because we've just hit the appendices, which cover, 40-some pages?
Yeah, probably another quarter of the book.
Yeah, sorry, 80. Because
it's more.
70 more pages left to go. All of it appendices. So if you're wondering why people go on about the appendices, this and appendix that, the DMG, is because the appendices are a third of this book.
True, there are a lot of them. Am I contractually obliged to do the rest of this?
It's content for the internet.
I don't remember signing anything, but I also don't remember how long I've been in this smoking room. And like the windows have disappeared.
It's probably a minor power.
Starting to get weird. Okay. Well, all that said, this has been another Tome of Gygax. This is what's episode 21?
21, 22?
Something like that. We'll check. Mr. Editor, you'll slap it on the title card. I've been SavageMick.
I've been Warlord Scarr.
And how do we close these out? Help.
We roll on this 24,000 entry table.
Oh, I hope it's brandy this time. All right. Good night, folks. Good luck. Thank you for listening to The Adventuring Party. Join us on our Discord server, where we keep the party going after hours. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, or you can email the hosts at party@theadventuringparty.net. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license, but you probably knew that already. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Goodbye.